Take the other mic.
O Lord Hari, my life I have simply spoiled. Although I have taken this rare human birth, like a miser, I have not served my Lord. I have no love for you, Radha and Krishna, and so quite purposefully I have drunk poison. From Golok to Vrindavan comes the chant of Hare Krishna. Such spiritual sounds vibrate only from the planets of God. How unlucky, and I have no taste for nectar such as this, no love for transcendental bliss. All matter is on blazing fire and it is always burning my heart. Though ablaze, I have no desire to escape. Though my mind and body burn, I remain bound, trying to enjoy this holocaust. Lord Chaitanya, son of Mother Sachi, formerly son of Nanda Maharaj, has now appeared with Lord Nityananda, formerly Balaram. They come chanting the holy name Hari Rama Krishna. Chanting Krishna's name, they extricate all kinds of fallen sinful entities from the blaze of this dark age of iron. Even two drunkards, Jagai and Mada, are delivered, purified by their songs. My dear Lord Krishna, son of Nanda Maharaj, now you are before me with Radharani, daughter of King Vrishabhanu. O Lord, please cast your glance of mercy upon me. I, Narottama Das, now plead to you, Lord. Now I surrender to you fully. Don't kick Narottama Dasa away, for he has no shelter but your lotus feet. Glance mercifully, O Lord, glance mercifully on Narottama Das, who is pleading at your feet.
त्वमज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति सुपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरोन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवम् साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशधारिणे। नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नामिने गौरत्विषे नमः। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधा कान्त नमोस्तुते। तप्त काञ्चन गौरांगी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So welcome back. It seems that this place is turning out to be a favorite spot for our meetings because of the nice big room and also the big heart of Patit Pavan Prabhu's family and the nice terrace on top that we have for our dinner.
After a long time.
Yeah, so no matter who is bringing the prasadam, the venue is fixed now.
The last 1 month we had 5 programs. To Bhakti Shastri also.
Fantastic. If you stay in, so there is a problem if you take such a big house. People will bars it off. So of course, welcome everyone, especially welcome our Sri Ram Nam Prabhu and Radhikarati Mataji and Krishna. Where is he? He's somewhere around. So they have just come from Vrindavan Dham to give us. So in fact they are going back. So right. So they are here only for a brief time. So I think Krishna is going to study their next 3 years, right? 8th, 9th and 10th. So at least for 3 years they are over there. So once a while they will come from Vrindavan to benedict all the Pune souls. So before we start, of course, I myself also, we were also, I mean, as a family, we had kind of been to Kerala, my parents' place, for 2 weeks. It's a very interesting place. One highlight which I just wanted to share was it's a village, where there are many things happening in the evening. Like every evening there is some program or the other in that village. Like some Bharatanatyam dance, some drama, some lecture around Ramayana by somebody. The highlight of what we attended many programs, and so there are like temple festivals where like the Utsava Murti was there, Narayan DT in that main Kalpati village on Sunday or Monday evening. It is taken on 3 elephants with a huge entourage of 20-40 people playing trumpet and drums and everything. It's quite a sight to behold. Of course, he was also there with me for some days, but you were not there during the Anishiveli, no? You had left earlier. Of course, but one of the best things that we programs that we attended was one Kathakali dance. It happens to be the traditional dance of Kerala, Kathakali. So basically in that dance, so there were 2 dances which we saw, but one dance which was really classic, which was like memorable, a lifetime experience for us, was one dance of, they just depicted one scene from the Ramayana where Ram, Sita are married and they are coming and Parashuram meets them. And Parashuram is angry. So that one scene they danced and showed for 1.5 hours. So in great detail, the emotions of Parashuram and Ram and Sita. Mainly it was Parashuram. So it was a very traditional, there was a song going on and this fellow would dance. So that was one highlight of what I saw. It's very nice. Right? That was a very good event.
Song in Malayalam.
Which language was it? Malayalam? Some mix of Sanskrit and Malayalam it was. It was not pure Sanskrit, but it was understandable because you could see from the expressions how they are shown. It was nice to see that, how the Vedic art is so wonderful that you can depict something like this for 2 hours literally, Small scene which in the biggest Kathakara will finish in 15 minutes, They were dancing 1.5 hours to show that. Anyway, so coming back to what we want to speak today, so I'll be taking one verse from Bhagavad Gita which we will speak, but before that, what I want to do is just want to highlight, today's talk basically or discussion is about, 2 extremes in philosophy in relation to what is dharma. So it is a little analytical and technical, but so you can bear with me for that. So there are 2 extremes in philosophy with respect to what is dharma. But before I come to my point, we will start with some stories because that will be a little easy to understand. And from the stories you can actually understand what we are trying to say. So the first point I'll try to speak on is, a tension that exists between justice and mercy. You understood, na? There is always a tension between justice and mercy. Mercy dikhane ka matlab, it is like to forgive somebody. Justice, like a simple example. Nowadays, all over the world, people are saying that capital punishment should be abolished. They are talking about mercy. Teha dikhao. Criminal hai to bhi wo sudhrega. Teha dikhao. Justice means, he has to be tooth for a tooth. He has to pay. Kill him, hang him. So there is a tension between justice and mercy. Understood? Sometimes people, even every manager has this problem. Whether to forgive a person or whether to punish a person. If you don't forgive, people say you are very cruel-hearted. If you don't punish, then people say, no justice only in this world. Kya koi justice nahi, koi bhi kuch bhi karta hai, chala jata hai. So there is always a tension between justice and mercy. So, we'll just give 2 examples from Bhagavad for this. So the first example we have covered a lot, so I'll just quote it briefly. I'll not discuss it in detail. The second one we will discuss in detail. The first example is the of Ashwathama, which we have discussed several times. Alright. So there is a tension between justice and mercy. Okay. And in fact, sometimes what happens is that people switch sides also. And here Krishna switches side. We say Krishna initially said he should be killed. Justice. And then later when Draupadi and Yudhishthira and all are saying forgive him, mercy, mercy, Krishna also says okay, forgive him. So Krishna switches side apparently. And finally Arjuna does something, to reconciliate the two by cutting his hair and, you know, I mean, taking off the jewel from his head, you know, so, and cutting off his shika. So as a, you know, some kind of justice is there, but mercy is also there. Like that he does something. There is another very interesting example in the 10th canto on the tension between justice and mercy. And this, here again the central character is Krishna. So can anybody guess, speculate?
Balram and Rukmini?
Fantastic. By any chance you are seeing my laptop? From there are you kind of secretly snooping onto my screen where I have stored some stuff to say. Because if you release everything then I will be in trouble. Anyway, okay. So Balram and Rukmini, again you see the same thing. So having kidnapped Rukmini, if you see very carefully in the story in 10.5431, Lord Krishna prepares to kill Rukmini actually. He goes to kill him. At that time what happens is Rukmini falls at his feet. You know, and Krishna also understands her emotion. That, you know, her shadi, her marriage today, and, you know, her brother is being killed. You know? I mean, no matter what. All said and done, you know, blood is thick. So you feel something for your brother, no matter who he is. So, you know, she is imploring, you know, please be compassionate. So Krishna immediately he changes view. You know, instead of killing, what does he do? He mocks him by cutting his hair in 5 places and, you know, mustache, half, you know, makes a funny figure out of it. Because for a Kshatriya to insult him like this is as good as death. You know, to make a joke out of him and, you know, leave him like this. So Krishna does that. And he छोड़ देते इधर उधर बाल, राधा मूछ छोड़ देते उसको. So Balram, when he comes, what Balram does interestingly is, he kind of, if you see the Bhagavatam, he, you know, he tells both people. So Balram, first of all, he releases Rukmini, and he chastises Krishna, saying that, you know, disfiguring a relative is like killing him only. You have not done any mercy to him by doing like this. You have almost killed him only. You know. And then Balram preaches to Rukmini also, indirectly showing that, you know, we should not be too attached to family members, understanding that, you know, if they are like this, then they have to be punished only. So Balram kind of tells both people that, you know, both of you, you know, kind of try to understand that, you know, don't be very strong on your part. Anyway, so these are 2 examples in the Bhagavatam where you see there is a tension between justice and mercy. So there is a tension which is there. And Krishna is there in both incidents, and Krishna is switching sides in both incidents. You know, first on one side, and in both sides the women are petitioning for mercy. In one case it is Draupadi, and in the other case it is Rukmini. So in both cases, because women are generally more merciful by nature, generally. So, you know, the women are petitioning for mercy. So Krishna is switching side from, you know, killing to just kind of, you know, insulting a person and sending him off like that. No, but the point is that this tension nevertheless always exists. And that is what in this world also we see today, constantly happening. So, even among the society of devotees, some devotee does some mistake or something happens, then, you know, those who are affected, they want, you know, justice. And others are saying mercy, daya dikha uspe, wo bhi bhakti hai, bechara. Itna bhi mat karo usko. So there is always a tension between a manager also, how to compensate, how to ensure that some justice is also given so that everybody understands. And the victim also is, you know, kind of pacified, and at the same time there is mercy also. You understood? I mean, this is going on. This is a constant problem. You know, it's always there. Like I mean, just to give a very factual example. I mean, because it's like, for example, you know, in ISKCON Gurukuls 20 years ago, there were a lot of abuse. So what happened is that at one point ISKCON decided that those who were the principals of that school at that time, they will also be punished. They may have not done anything wrong, but it was under their leadership that things went wrong. So as a punishment, they cannot give class in any ISKCON center, this, that. You understood? So they are saying, come on, be merciful. What could we do? You know, we were there as principal with people who are, you know, whatever. You know, they were not very well qualified, this, that. They did mistake. Why are you catching us? But then the affected party are saying, Arey, you don't know how much we got affected. They were principal, they turned a blind eye. You understood? So there is a tension between justice and mercy. What to do with that devotee? He's a good devotee now. He's there for 30 years. Sometimes he's a sannyasi. You know, if you give very hard justice, then he is crying. If you don't give, the victims are crying. So, you know, there is the tension which is always there. So, the tension always exists. So, that is the first example of, you know, conflict. Another example of conflict, again going back to the Shastra, is that of what is moral duty. Like between a husband and wife, for example. Again, there is a tension. So in this, some examples we will take here. The first example we take here is that of between Pandu and Kunti. If you see very carefully between Pandu and Kunti, Pandu, as we know, was cursed. He was cursed that whenever he contacts his wife, he will die. So this curse was prior to his kind of begetting any children or anything. So he was stuck. Because as a king, he has to have children. Because that is dharma for a king. On the other hand, if he starts to do anything, because the curse is that at the height of your passion, when you are about to consume, at that time you will die. It's like a very phenomenal kind of a curse. If you see, at the height of your passion, you will die. That means you will not be able to consume your act. Before that, you will die. That's the curse. A very heavy curse actually on Pandu. So he is like, what to do. So he is discussing with Kunti once. What can we do? As king, we have to have children, but we can't do anything. So Kunti is suddenly suggesting that I have this boon from Durvas. But she is suggesting very reluctantly actually. If you see the Mahabharata, it is very reluctantly she is suggesting. Because she doesn't like this idea of getting different demigods and having children from them. Because that was the boon actually. Durvasa's boon, it was a particular type of mantra which there is no technical name to it. It is something like if you chant that mantra, the demigod has to come. Matlab, it forces the demigod to come. Yeah, Vashikar. So it forces him to come. He doesn't have any option. Understood? So it's actually a tamasic category of mantras. Because it's not the ideal thing where you force a devata to give you some result. But nevertheless, she had it. And she already had one experience with that Surya Devata where she tried out and she was not comfortable with the whole thing. So she reluctantly told her husband that like this one facility is there which I have, but I'm not keen on it, whatever. So at that time, Pandu says something. I'm just reading exactly from the Mahabharata. It says, Pandu is saying, "Oh my dear wife, knows of dharma know that a wife is to do as her husband says, whether he speaks according to dharma or even if he speaks what is not dharma." So Pandu is kind of using a very heavy statement to force his wife to do something. So of course husbands can take note of the statement from the Mahabharata. If you want the reference, it is 1.113.27 from the Mahabharata, where Kunti is reluctant. Kunti is saying that Pandu says, you don't know, knows of dharma, know what? That wife is supposed to do what the husband says, whether the husband is speaking dharma or not dharma. Irrespective of the wife should do, that is wife's dharma. So he's making such a heavy, sometimes, to push a person, you say some very heavy statement, The otherwise person doesn't move to action. You have to, heavy dose So if you see this kind of a thing, then it seems that it's quite heavy. So anyway, Kunti agrees, and in a period of a couple of years, they have 3 children. Yudhishthir through Dharmaraj, Bhima through Vayu, Arjun through Indra. After this has happened, what happens is, Pandu comes to Kunti and says, beget one more son. So traditionally it is always there that the man wants many children and woman does not. So she's kind of coming as a ekor, karke, he's going on coming. Just one more, he said. But so second, third, somehow Kunti does it. So initially started with one only. But then Pandu said 2, he said okay, 3, okay. 4th time when Pandu came, Kunti becomes wild. So if you see her response, he says, Shastra does not recommend a 4th child by such a means, even if one is in trouble. So Kunti quotes Shastra, saying that, yes, I also agree that, this kind of surrogate fatherhood is allowed in the Vedic scripture, where the father cannot beget, the man cannot beget in the womb, another person, qualified Brahmana or somebody can be called and done. This was the dharma in Treta Yuga and before. So this could be done. But the same Shastra does not allow a woman to have 4 children like this. So he says, with the 4th child, I will be called as a loose woman, and with the 5th, I will almost become like a prostitute. So she kind of uses very heavy language. Pandu retreats. Pandu says, okay, no problem. Relax. No, I just suggested. No, it's okay. So the thing is, Pandu had earlier said that a wife should always obey the husband, no matter what. But in this particular case, that was not the thing. You understood? That was not means it changed. The tables changed. Because Kunti was not now ready to listen to what Pandu is saying, 4th time, 5th time like this. He said, see, 3 times I have done, this is it. More than this, I cannot call some other devata and keep having like these children. So you just be happy with whatever it is. And at that time, though Pandu wants, but he does not quote that previous statement. Because he knows that the validity of that statement is not applicable now at this particular context. You understand the point? So what we are trying to say basically is, there is a conflicting moral duty. So that means, husband at one point he may force something, and in that circumstance it may be acceptable, his force. But in the other circumstance, the same force is not acceptable. So the wife says, no, I will not accept this at all. And then he says that, okay, why don't you, because he is interested in children, so he says, why don't you give the same mantra to my other wife, Madhuri, give her, she will get. She says, okay, I will do that. So when he does it, what happens? So basically Kunti calls Devata on her behalf. And she tells, at the final stage, she tells Madhuri, now invoke the Devata. So Madhuri very intelligently, she thinks, God knows whether she will give me once more chance. She invokes Ashwini Kumaras, so to get twins. She got twins. And then again Kunti is annoyed. She thinks, what is this? She got twins only. Now one more chance if I give, she'll call another, twin Devata and get another twin. She'll have 4 children, I'll have 3. All this, no, nothing. Now stop. After we're going to use this mantra only henceforward. Then, part 2 again, he's saying, okay, no problem. We'll be happy with 5. You understood this, right? So basically the point is, though there is the traditional rule and Pandu quotes a rule that a wife should always listen to the husband, at some points Kunti listens, but at some other point she backs off. She says that no, I am not going to, because this is not what you are saying is not according to Dharma. So anyway, so this is about a moral duty. Another very similar thing we find in the Mahabharata, in another story, where you again see a very similar thing, a tussle. This is in that story of Ekachakra. Now when the Pandavas are in hiding, and at that time, that Hidimba, not Hidimba, sorry, Baka. So Baka, in that family, whose chance it was to send, we all know the story, right? So in that village, every family had to send one fellow every day with a cart load of food for that Baka to eat. He would eat the food and he would eat the driver also. So this Brahman's chance it was. His turn had come. So Kunti, when she overhears the story, the conversation between the Brahmanas is like this. The conversation is about dharma, if you see. The conversation is about dharma. That means the husband, the Brahmana husband, the wife, the daughter and the son, they are all discussing who should go. See, what is happening is there is a conflict. That is why they are unable to decide. Because on one hand, because the Mahabharata, how it shows that story is, that the husband is confused whether he is supposed to go or he is not supposed to go. Because if he goes, then the entire family is unprotected. Anybody will, exploit the family, like Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Varna Sankara. The wife is left behind, and obviously, she's not an employed lady or something that even the husband dies, she has her own salary or something. She's dependent totally on the husband. So the husband is gone, she's on the street. So that was a dilemma of dharma. Who will go? What is our duty? The wife says, I will go. But then the husband, the Brahmana, he's telling her, how can I allow you to go? Because on one level, if I allow you, because the husband's duty is to protect the wife. And if I allow you to be eaten by an asura, when I am sitting hale and hearty, that goes against the dharma. Because I am supposed to protect you first. So by sending you off to that fellow to be eaten, I am violating dharma. So the whole discussion among them, the confusion about who will go, is about the confusion of dharma. That means, what is the duty? Whose duty it is to go? They are unable to come to a consensus. They are unable to come to a consensus. So they are all discussing, I will go, you will go, if I go, this is wrong, that is correct. If you go in one way, it is correct, that is wrong. So they are all confused. So they are all crying in that. And some, they just feel that let us all go. Let us all be finished off. By that even one stroke. Instead of one person, let all 4 or 5 over. Our entire family, let us be finished by that baka. So the confusion is about dharma actually. The confusion is not about anything, it's the confusion about dharma. So again you see, so because life is like this. Life is always, there are very confusing situations. So the main reason why it is like this, in another way to see it, is because there is always a confusion about, there is always an ideal and there is always a real thing. That means possible. That means there is an idealism. Ideally, it should be like this. But the reality is somewhere else. The reality is lower than the ideal. So, people are struggling, wondering whether to reach that reality I mean, whether to reach their idealism or stay at their own reality. Again, we just give 2-3 good examples for this. That will make the point what I am trying to say clear. The first example that I would like to take is in the context of hunting. Like if you take hunting as a topic, what does the Shastra say about it? Is hunting permissible? Hunting animals. Is it in general permissible? For Kshatriya, is it permissible? Is it not a sin for a Kshatriya to hunt?
No, wild animals.
No, 1 second. Is it a sin for a Kshatriya to hunt or is it not at all a sin?
If he does it for pleasure, then it's sin. If he does it to protect and to practice his military skills, then it's
Really? Because if you see in the Bhagavad, there is one place where Narada is talking to Prachini Parishad, where he is telling, see, all these animals to whom you have done all these things, now they are all going to come and punish you. So there are a lot of references in the Shastra whereby it is seen that even for a Kshatriya, this kind of hunting is not the ideal thing. Means it is going to invite a reaction, just that it is less. You understood? See, because again, now we are coming to another interesting thing. So I'll divert from this subject and I'll come back to my subject very soon. The Vedic idea is the sin is dependent on the sinner. You understood? No? That means the sin is dependent on the sinner. I mean, who is the person doing it? Depending on that, the weight of the sin is on him. Okay. The best example is Narad Muni and Mrigari. So I'll just go to Chaitanya Charitamrita. I'll just read something. So if you see, 1 second.
Minister giving different punishments also.
Yeah. So if you see, Narad Muni and Mrigari, when Narad Muni is meeting Mrigari, he's telling him that, why are you half killing animals? By half killing, you are giving too much pain to them. This pain is going to come to you. Killing them in itself, I'll just read from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Vyadatumi jiva mara alpa aparada tomar tadartha nadiya mara ye papa apar. Translation is, Vyadatumi means you are a hunter. Jiva mara, killing animals. Alpa aparada tomar. Because you are a hunter, you are born in a hunter family, your whole mindset is like that of a hunter, this is your, Kula Dharma or whatever, it is alpa aparada. Mahaprabhu, Narad Muni is saying like that. No? Vyadatumi, because you are a hunter, jiva mara, to kill these animals, alpa aparada tomar. It is a minor offense. Kadartana diya, giving them pain. Mara ye papa apar, this is terrible offense. So the way Narad Muni is preaching to him, at least what you see from the face value of this text, which I am reading from Chaitanya Charitamrita, is that because this fellow is a hunter only by profession, is born in such a situation, whatever, there is offense for killing, not that not. But there is a difference between him killing and tomorrow, for example, one Brahman going and killing. You understood? This Brahman is going to attract more sin comparatively to the hunter, who is going to attract sin for killing, but not that much. But he is saying that killing them like this half and looking at them, suffering in pain and laughing at it the way you are doing, this is going to cause you unlimited problem. Kill them fully, he says. Narad Muni preaches like this to you. So basically what we understand is that sin is relative to the sinner in the Vedic context. Everybody understands this. It depends on who you are. Whether sin you have done, how much reaction you have done. So anyway, the point is obviously Kshatriyas, the thing is, they have a tendency for violence. And also they like to fight battles to expand their kingdom. Okay? And they also like hunting and all that. It's not that they don't. Generally, if you see a general Kshatriya, the tendency to hunt is there, to go, to find some challenging situation. Even nowadays people, nobody is a Kshatriya really, but still there are guys who like to hunt and, there are people who land in trouble also legally by trying to hunt some animal. And it is there in the world today also. So people have such tendencies. So as such the scripture doesn't allow hunting for anyone. So if you see, I'll just give some references before we talk, before we say what we're saying. So ideally speaking, if you see in the Bhagavad Gita or if you see in the Bhagavad, so if you see in the Bhagavad, there is one particular 11.17.21 where ahimsa is sarva varnika, Krishna explains. That means not killing is something applicable for all varnas. Even the Kshatriya has to minimize violence only. Okay, so for everybody it is applicable in general. And hunting for Kshatriya also can be dangerous. So can anyone give some examples from Shastra? where you see that a Kshatriya goes to hunt and he lands in trouble. Dasharath. He lands in trouble. Any other example today we spoke of? Pandu. He lands in trouble. So all these troubles which are shown, it is not simply just like that. It is basically to show that, you are going to, beat up. There are several more actually. If you see, it's not just 1 second. I'll just go back to my. Even Parikshit. You see, Parikshit also, it was during a hunting expedition that he comes across that. So we see all are like, pure devotees. So with them also this example is shown. That though they were following Kshatriya Dharma and they went out to hunt or whatever, for a genuine thing only, for increasing their bravery or whatever, still, they landed in a big mess, so-called. Of course, something very wonderful came out of it, that's a different thing, like Parikshit case, Srimad Bhagavatam came out of it or whatever. Or in the Pandu's case, all these 5 big sons came out. So whatever, so that is there only. But at least at that point, that hunting landed them in great trouble. Even in the Bhagavatam, there is another story of this Uttama, Dhruva's brother. See, Uttama also, he goes to hunt or something only. At that time only, he dies and all that. So basically, it is a very, it's a very standard thing. That hunting is a very dangerous game. So the hunting attracts sinful reaction on one side, but at the other side, there is danger in it. So basically, what we are trying to say is, there is an ideal world and there is a real world. So the ideal world says something, but many people are unable to reach that ideal world. So they are at their own real world. So the Shastra also, Vedas in general, understand that everybody cannot be at the most ideal world. So the Vedas, if you ask the Vedas, is ahimsa necessary? They will say, yes, ahimsa is very much necessary. You should not kill animals. But what if I'm a Kshatriya, I have passion, I want to fight, this, that. Okay, you may hunt animals, at least it will give you courage to protect your army, this, that. But is there a reaction? There is reaction. Everything in this world has reaction. It may be less because that you're a Kshatriya and you are hunting that, sometimes you are hunting a wild animal or you are hunting in order to increase your bravery so that you can protect the country. So there are some valid reasons. So the sin in that is less, but still it is not totally karma free. There is nothing like total free karma. It's not like that. So there is a reaction as well. So that means there is an ideal thing. But people are at a real world, which is much lesser than the ideal world. And we have to see how to reach that ideal world. That's how it is. Because as long as you stay in your own reality, there are some reactions which you keep getting also, which we are seeing in all this. That is coming under Ugra Karma, if you see from the Shastric perspective. That is coming under Ugra Karma, killing not only frogs. Prabhuji, nowadays in medicine and all, they basically, like all this cosmetics and all they make in a medicine to forget. They test on the eyes of rabbit and all that and see, they torture animals like anything, even in simple cosmetics, correct? We had read or heard somewhere, you remember that? Simple cosmetics also that ladies buy, they test it on rabbits and everything, their eyes and so they torture them and they kill them. So that is there, that pain is there in that product. That pain is there in the product. Karmically speaking, the suffering of those animals is there in that product. And when you buy that product and use it, that karma you are sharing it. It's not just about killing animals or something. So it's there. It's not there. It's not there.
So Ayurveda we don't have any such concept. Ayurveda we don't have such concept.
I don't know. Some doctor can help me. Hopefully not. It doesn't make any sense because they have books, na. We have gone to Ayurvedic doctors. They sit with a big grantha and they say descending knowledge. It is. It is not experimented.
One example again for hunting is Lord Ram himself.
Ram when hunting?
For the deer.
Deer. Interesting. Hunting causes problem.
So one question which I have actually is, there are reactions to the sense, as we said, right? And we typically hear, and if you kill somebody, you will get the same degree of reaction, need not be in the same form.
Yeah.
So the question is that that all the Kshatriyas, when they kill so many animals in their lifetimes, so probably they will, ideally speaking, they will probably get birth as an animal and face the same situation, get the same kind of pain.
No, it's not necessarily like that. They may get the reaction in their own way. It is not. It is not that I would not think that way, because as a concession they are allowed to kill also. It is not that the Vedic the system in general, it allows a Kshatriya to kill animal like this. But it just says that you are not free from the reaction. That's what Narada and all tells Prachini Parishad and everybody in general. That you are not totally free from it.
So the bigger question is that all of us create some sins, in our everyday life, and then how do we progress? Because
so that is what Krishna is saying in Bhagavad Gita. Every occupation has some intrinsic sin, but still it is better you do that duty only rather than try to do anybody else's duty.
Correct.
And then you come on the platform of yoga. So that's what Krishna is advising, right? If you see in the Bhagavad Gita, that where he is saying that everybody's swadharma is tainted with some problem, but even though it is tainted with it, don't give it up. Don't think by giving it up you will achieve much. You continue with that, but at the same time you uplift yourself on the platform of yoga. Where when you come to that platform, then your consciousness will rise, the nature of your activities will change, so many things.
So then it becomes quite subjective, that what is wrong, what is not wrong, for whom is it wrong, for whom is not wrong. So there is no clear demarcation, for example, in this, going by this whole philosophy. For example, when we say that somebody who wants to eat non-veg, he can kill it, offer it to Kali, and then he will also progress. That's what we understand, right?
See, that depends at which platform you are talking. If you are talking from the Vaishnava platform, then there is a very clear distinction what is correct, what is wrong. If you are talking from a Shakta platform, see, which platform are we talking from? That is the question. For example, if you are talking from the Vaishnava platform, if somebody is interested to go back to Godhead, can he hunt animal and still achieve that? No, he cannot. So there is a problem. You understand what I am saying? At least, since you are asking about whether a person can kill and offer to Kali. No, Vaishnava platform is not possible. From the Kali Mata worship platform, from that Tamoguni platform where you are trying to rise from Tamogun to Rajogun little bit. From there, is it right to offer a goat to Kali on Amavasya with the mantra? Yes, it is. So which platform are you with? That is the question which will decide whether an activity is suitable to you or not. You have to bear with that consequence. You understand the point, na?
Agree, but so, see, what I'm confused is that if somebody is killing even by the Shakta platform,
Yeah.
so he can rise from Tamagun to Rajogun,
Yeah.
but at the same time,
He has to suffer the consequences.
so they'll both happen parallelly. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, both are happening. He is progressing because he is listening to the Shastra and regulating his action. Correct? He has to kill only on Amavasya day. He cannot kill on any day. Once a month only he can kill. So because he is listening to the Shastra, there is some hope. But at the same time, he is bound severely by the laws of karma. He is not going to escape that. There is a very slow progress. So Vaishnava platform, that's not acceptable. So this platform, it is acceptable. So it depends on which platform a person is. What is your goal? What is your aspiration? That will decide whether what is right, what is wrong. Right? Okay. We'll go ahead. There are many more things to discuss before we... I'll take some more questions. Okay, yeah, anyway, I'll take this one. Yeah, Modito Sadhurapi Vrishchika Sarpahatya. A saint is also jumping when a scorpion or a snake is killed. Prabhupada chanted that when Mr. Nair died. And his servant Tushta Krishna told him on phone, when Prabhupada was being massaged, that Mr. Nair is dead. There is a phone from Bombay. So Prabhupada slapped his thighs and said, yes, Krishna killed him. So the servant asked, did he get liberation? Krishna killed him. He said, hey, you're a fool. Krishna did not kill him personally. So he will not get liberation. He'll go there. That time Prabhupada quoted. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Can that person get the sin of killing that species? Because it is said now, one has to go by killing the animal.
See, it depends. See, it's like this, I tell you, even snakes now for that matter, it is not that they are to be indiscriminately killed. Please remember. When we say Modito Sadhurapi Vrishchika Sarpahatya, doesn't mean you go around and kill snakes. Like, Govind Prabhu was once telling that is why the concept of Chaturmas is there. The Chaturmas concept is, in 12 months, 8 months you move around. 4 months in the rainy season, all the other snakes and other creatures, they have to move around. So you don't move. You sit in one place. If you move and they are also moving, there will be conflict. So you don't move. You stop moving. That is the concept of Chaturmas he was explaining. The ecological concept of Chaturmas. That you sit in one place. Because if you are moving and animals are also moving, there is problem. Rainy season may. So you don't move. Other time you move, they automatically go under the road. They will not move. So living together along with even these wild animals is a fact. So that's why you see, for example, in Journey Home, you will see Maharaj He's with that, some Baba, Kailash Baba and all, and he's telling him how you can live together with these wild animals and they will not trouble you. You give them their way and you don't mess around with them.
And Prabhupada also says his father, in his shop, he used to keep rats.
Yeah, so the point is that, it is not that when you say kill snakes, it means go around really killing snakes. What it means is, suppose you're living in a house and a poisonous snake has come inside, then you cannot apply that philosophy that time over here. You understood, na? So it can happen sometime by chance. A big poisonous snake may wander inside the house. And at that time, if you apply that philosophy that even a snake should not be killed, you are in trouble. It's a poisonous snake, again you have to distinguish. If it's a rat snake, then this is not applicable. If it's a poisonous cobra which has come inside the house, then you cannot bring this philosophy because somehow or for some reason it came inside. So now you have to deal with it. You understood? But that doesn't mean you go out in the field and some jungle and you find a cobra and you kill it. It has a right to live. So it's a delicate balance there also. Correct, na?
To protect ourselves, we will not.
Yeah, correct. But if you go around and you
Only then this philosophy applicable to another animal also. Why these two? Suppose tigers or other wild animals.
I think the Shastra is giving a generic case.
No, even
a generic case. Nair was also counted in that snake and scorpion only from Prabhupada's perspective. So, it is talking about an envious entity which has come to harm you. That's what the verse is saying. When Hiranyakashipu is dying, Prahlad or someone is speaking this verse that even a saint is pleased when such an envious creature is killed. In that context, this verse is said. Right? Yeah, so basically, so we are talking about, so we are talking about a conflict. So we are talking about how, even when it is hunting or something like that, it's ideally not recommended even for these people, so even for, these kind of personalities. But even if they do it, there are so many rules, regulations, this, that, whom they can kill, whom they cannot kill. So many rules and regulations are there. So there are dangers. If they do something, then. Okay, so another example where you will see, an idealism and a real world is in that of polygamy in the Vedic thing. Where ideally speaking, a person is supposed to have only one wife, a man. That's why you have the idea, Lord Ramachandra, who exhibited himself as the ideal human being. So ideal human being married only once. Though for a large part of his life he was alone. If you see the Ramayana story, Lord Ramachandra ruled for 11,000 years. And he got married at the age of 12, at the age of 26 or something, he went to the forest for 14 years. He came back in 2 years, he banished Sita. Remaining 10,900 years, he was alone only. He did not consider a second marriage, though it was such a long period of time. He just sitting alone because, he wanted to establish that ideal standard for a human being. Where the person marries only once. But at the same time, because generally, men tend to be more lusty or whatever, the idea of multiple wives were traditionally allowed in the Vedic system. They marry more than once. But that marrying more than once can lead to, first of all, from a spiritual sense, it is troublesome. Just like Prabhupada's father tells Prabhupada that why do you want to get married again? One wife is enough, don't entangle yourself too much, right? That story is there, right? Abhacharan, he doesn't like the first wife, he is planning to get a second one. His father tells him, God tells him, no, it's good you don't like her, don't get entangled more. So from a spiritual sense, it is not ideal that, you are associated with too much woman because that's going to complicate your spiritual life and, make liberation more difficult with so much more of, whatever. Correct, na? And even if you see the word for co-wife in Sanskrit is sapatni. And that same word in Sanskrit is also used for enemy. Sapatna. It means actually enemy. So basically it's a clear indication that there is trouble. That's why you have, like in Bhagavatam, we have the best example of Chitraketu. Whereas many wives he had, that was the cause of his trouble only. One wife he had nothing, everything would have been safe and sound. Multiple wives he had, he was in trouble. Even Dasharatha himself. He had 3 wives, or 350 wives, out of 3 were prominent. There was all this trouble and Ram had to be banished.
Chitraketu also.
One crore.
Chitraketu, yeah, that's what we said initially. Chitraketu. So
Krishna can kill Karthi.
Krishna is Supreme Lord. Krishna is Supreme Lord. Yeah. So, correct now. So, from his perspective, there is no problem. But from others' perspective, there is, trouble. So, just like in the hunting case, the kings fell into trouble because of hunting. One trouble was that they incurred a bad karma by, doing such things. And second trouble was it was dangerous. and they could get into trouble, like Dasharatha got into trouble or Maharaj Pandu got into trouble. So that danger was always there. So that basically indicates, it's a warning that see there is a danger there. So danger means better be safe. So anyway, so through all these examples, what we are basically trying to say is two things. The first set of examples we saw, whether it was Rukmi or whether it was Kunti and Pandu, or whether it was all those examples that we gave initially, it basically illustrated that the Eka Chakra family, where there is a conflict between dharma, whether to take this side or this side, that is one thing. And now what we are saying is about, the same thing, instead of like this, you look at it like this. There is an ideal standard and there is a real world where a person is and he is struggling. But if he takes the real world, what happens? His problem. If he takes the ideal thing, that is good, but he is unable to take. So that's why he is coming to the so-called real platform where he is facing trouble. So this is what we are seeing till now. So now we go on to the Bhagavad Gita, and we will take this particular point ahead.
Prabhu, before that.
Yeah.
So, we discussed these 2 points, but then what's the conclusion now?
Yeah, I am coming to that. That's why I am taking Bhagavad Gita. For conclusion only we are taking. Without conclusion, how can we confuse everybody and let them go home? Okay, so we are reading from 18th chapter, 25th verse. Anubandham kshayam himsam anapeksha cha paurusham mohat arapyate karma yattat tamasam uchyate. Translation. That action performed in illusion, in disregard of scriptural injunctions, and without concern for future bondage or for violence or distress caused to others, is said to be in the mode of ignorance. So Krishna is talking about an action. So this action is what we call as dharma. That means, dharma means what we are supposed to do in a given situation. So Krishna is saying that what kind of action or dharma is tamoguni. He says there are 2-3 things he is saying. First thing he is saying is which disregards scripture. Disregards scripture. And the second thing is saying which is not concerned about the future bondage and problems that come. Understood? You do something without concern of what is going to happen afterwards. Okay. So this is precisely what we are talking of. So in Western philosophy, these 2 things are, these are 2 different views. The first view in technical language is called as deontological ethics. Leave the word, it's a little complex. Deontological ethics means in deontological ethics, right behavior means acting according to scripture. जो शास्त्र बोलता है वो करो. That is right behavior. That means where consequences are not that important in deontological ethics. You understood, no? I mean, this is one end of the spectrum. The other end of the spectrum, in the Western view, this is again here, is consequentialism. Consequentialism means, good activity is that which produces good results. That means what is to be done is basically decided based on the result that it will produce. If the result is good, your activity is considered very good. Shabash. If the result is bad, your activity is considered nonsense. What did you do? You landed up in a big mess. You understood? So these are 2 ends of the spectrum. Again, we are taking. So one end of the spectrum is deontological ethics, where basically you act according to the book, scripture. Where what will happen, that is totally later. That is not to say. And consequentialism means, the result is to be seen. So please remember, in this Bhagavad Gita, so this is Western philosophy. Yeah? This is from a Western professor's idea. In the Bhagavad Gita verse, interestingly, dharma and tamoguna includes both. What is being said here is that action is tamoguni, which does not disregard scripture and which does not consider future consequences. Dono include ho gaya isme. You understood? So it is basically taking both into account. You understood? Okay, so now we will elaborate on this. We will take many more examples, which will make the idea very simple. But first of all, I want to ask all of you, what do you think the world today mainly sees ethics as? do you think they are more on the deontological side or they are more on the consequentialism side? Consequentialism. So everybody is in chorus on this. They are on consequentialism side. A very simple example illustrates this point. I'll give a very simple example. Like for example, 100 years back in India, let us say, divorce or separation was not so much. Today it is increasing. It has increased substantially. The idea traditionally in India was, even if my husband or wife is giving problem, even though the consequence is terrible only, staying with such a person, dharma indicates that I should stay with this person. So I will stay. Correct? This was the general view of people in general. We have to stick to dharma. Even if it is painful, we will stick to dharma. If it was, of course, if it was too much, then they would just live separately. But then, but what would happen is, because of the overemphasis on sticking to the dharmic principle, that separation would happen only in unavoidable cases. And then it would not be like a divorce and remarry. They would just live separately. Like in many of us in our families also we know that some, old grandfather's uncle or something, after 2-3 years of marriage, something happened, the girl came back home. And then she stayed at home only whole life. Either a single or with a child or whatever. They did not divorce or get married or anything. If it was unbearable. Otherwise, they continued to stay. Like best example is Prabhupada's sister, Pishima. So if you see Prabhupada's sister, this Bhavatarani Mataji, she was an initiated disciple of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. She married a person who was a meat eater and a drunkard. Some reason. And she was a Vaishnavi, but the family situation was such that she had to even cook fish for the husband. She was doing it. Though she was an initiated disciple of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, that culture and that even the devotee environment over there did not actively tell her, get out of this mess. He said, no, whatever reason you are stuck with such a husband is demanding fish, you only have to cook. Okay, you don't need, cook and give him what to do. Then after he passed away, she came to the association of devotees and she continued a nice spiritual life till the end. You understood this? I mean, just try to think, in today's world, a woman would find it very difficult to do that actually. Because of the whole situation around. Because people will also say, itna kya tolerate karne ka? Consequences so bad, get out man, forget it. Who will go patient or what is idiot? Out of this mess. You understood? So the tolerance level is very less because we are a lot concerned about consequence. Because for the consequence is very important. Life is going to be very miserable. That means a person will think that, if I stay with this person, my life is going to be very miserable. I cannot tolerate it. Forget dharma and all. Sab bhul jao uske saath hi rehne ka. So this is a very simple example, but everybody immediately agreed to it. That in today's world, consequentialism is only important. This deontological ethics isn't that important. Okay, great. Now what I want everyone to do is, we will try to brainstorm some examples from Mahabharata, Shastra, where we will take two types of examples. The first examples we will take is where a person stuck to, deontological ethics. What is right? Do that. Even the consequence is terrible, keep doing the right only. You understood? That means the person knew consequence is going to be terrible only. If I do this, consequence khatarnak hone wala hai. Lekin tab bhi right is right. That's it.
Yudhishthira.
So everybody knows immediately. The way I am describing only people understood. There is only one guy who fits the bill. Yudhishthira Maharaj. He sticks to the right thing. Gambling. So he again pointed out the main feature of the Mahabharata story. Gambling. So he puts the bet, he gambles. Right from the beginning, he's not saying no to the Dhritarashtra, to the offer. Knowing fully well that I'm going to land in trouble. When Yudhishthira Maharaj is going from Indraprastha to Hastinapur to play, he knows very well, ye log mere ko pura chuna lagane wale. But still, he's saying that, I cannot say no because my superior has ordered it. And I took a vow that I will always obey my superiors. So superior ne bola, mujhe jana hi padega. I know the consequence is going to be terrible. Yeah, so we'll come to the Bhishma's example later. So Yudhishthira is clearly one such example where deontological ethics is at play. Where he is, and for example, when he puts his brothers and he loses them. So if you see, it is just a verbal agreement. You understood, na? Like if you see the Mahabharata, when they put all their things and they so-called lose it, it is just a verbal agreement. a person can backtrack. I mean, in modern time, person would have done that or something. Would have said, forget man, I don't care for all this game. You cheated, finished. जब cheating किया नहीं करने वाला मैं सब तो पहन लूँगा. Come on, let's fight straight away. Person may have done that, but he said no. Whatever it is, ethics. I only betted, I lost. Draupadi is being brought in. She is being stripped. Deontological ethics says that obey scripture. Scripture said truthfulness is important. You put her on bed. You lost it. Whatever happens. Of course, the consequence was wonderful in a way. For example, in the Draupadi Vastrahar, the consequence was wonderful, not as in the agony that Draupadi faced, but the fact that Krishna came there and did something fantastic, which otherwise would have never happened. You understood? I mean, the central theme of Mahabharata is that story only. So Krishna comes and, he kind of this. Or even the Pandavas going to the forest, though at one level of consequence it was terrible, but if you see from another perspective, had they not gone to the forest, they would have never won the battle. Because they went to the forest, they did tapasya, Arjuna went to the heavens, got celestial weapons, and they managed some stuff in the war. Otherwise, no chance only with these people. You understand? That means that gambling match put them in a situation where they did something and got extra power to defeat these people, which otherwise they would not have done. Under normal circumstances, there was no motivation to simply go to Badrikashram and do penance and, worship Lord Shiva or Pashupatas, whatever. I mean, there's no need to do Arjun to do that. But he did all that in that situation only. So the consequence turned out to be good at the end, if you see in retrospect. But at that time, it was not clear. But still, he stuck to that. Okay, very good. So this is fine example. Any other example of deontological ethics where a person sticks to the truth, though the consequence turned out to be bad only?
Lord Ramchandra going to Vanavas? Lord Ramchandra going to Vanavas?
That to some extent. I just want to stick to Mahabharata again.
Harishchandra is from
Bhishma. Okay.
Lot of problems. He took a vow that I will not marry. So because of
This is a very good example he's giving.
Govind Prabhu also.
That's deontological ethics. Because Bhishma, he took all this vow that I will not marry. Uske karan kitne sare problems. That Chitrangad, Vichitravirya, Chitrangad died, Vichitravirya did not have children. Then Satyavati is telling Bhishma, you impregnate my daughter-in-laws. There's Ambika Ambalika to get a child. It is okay, it is acceptable. I am telling you. Because of me only you took this vow. Because I should get married to, your father. You took the vow of brahmacharya. Give it up. It's good for the country. Consequence would have been good. But Bhishma said, no. I have given my word. I know your consequence, what you are saying, everything. But this I cannot do. So that means he does not think of, even though apparently the consequence is not going to be the best, so to speak. From this perspective, there are many wonderful personalities who have arrived. Anyway, we will bear with them.
Bro, even this
One second. I'll just complete this and then take some questions. In fact, we have not yet gone into my topic, so we'll just see how much time we have. I don't want to leave today's audience at a confused state. Deontological or consequentialism. So anyway, I'll just complete this example. So, Bhishma, knowing fully well that, Satyavati from the consequentialism perspective, she is correct. Arey Baba, bachcha nahi, idhar koi, nobody is there, prince, who will rule the country? This is more important, forget your vow, man. Country is at risk, no one here. You have to do it. He says, no, my word is there, I have to stick to it. So, he sticks to it. Of course, he gives a solution. You have another son, Vyasa, get him. He is not obliged by such vows, he can do it. So I says, okay. But then again, that is the cause of all problems we see from the consequentialism perspective. Because Vyasadeva comes, Ambika closes her eyes. Surely Bhishma would have come, all that would not have happened. So obviously the story would have taken a full U-turn only. We don't know where it would have gone. But nevertheless, so if you see from the consequentialism perspective, it was, we don't know whether it was so-called good or bad or whatever. There is no point in debating that. But Bhishma sticks to his point. Yeah, so this is very good. Yeah, any quick question before we go ahead? We have not yet completed our lecture, so.
After going to Draupadi when Arjuna and Bhima came, he told to share the
That is also a good example, deontological ethics. That the word is more important than consequence. Then they are just trying to adjust the consequence according to that. they're saying no, this girl also prayed for 5 husbands, and they come to everything. But yeah, you're good example. That is also a good example where the truth is considered primarily important rather than the consequence. Yeah, very good.
What about this Karna example? Because in the war, he just gave the word Kunti Maharani. I will kill only Arjuna.
Karna is more of the other side. Correct.
No. He sticks to his word. Yeah. He's also having that ethics with him. He also gets an opportunity to kill Nakul and all once, but he does not. He says that I will leave you. Even Yudhishthir. At one point, he kind of challenges him everything.
It comes in that way.
Yeah, to an extent, he sticks to his word. At least in that perspective, he is. But somehow, from a Vaishnava perspective, it's difficult to glorify Karna on any account. So that's why I am hesitating to do that completely. But in a given set of circumstances, in that whole dark this thing, some light maybe you see.
I think probably what you can say is that Karna giving promise to Duryodhana that I'll support you because we are friends. I think that will be more, an example in this regard. Wherein because of his
without considering the consequence. Yeah, I mean that is terrible actually. In fact, this is an example where a person should not be sticking on the ethics side. He should think about the consequence. Because Krishna is telling him, see, don't think about your so-called friendship. You come on this side, but he refuses. So this is a case where deontological ethics go wrong, so to speak. Anyway, now quickly we'll come to consequentialism before we address some more things. So in the consequentialism perspective, there are several examples where a person. Okay, now I'll tell you one thing. Okay, before going to that, we'll take one more example. So we saw some examples where a person did deontological ethics. That means he thought about what scripture says and what is, correct and this thing. Now we will see some example where a person wanted to do an act, thinking in terms of, what the consequence will be. And he was thinking correct only. That means the consequence, what the person was predicting, was correct. It indeed would have been a disastrous consequence. But still, dharma meant to do the right thing only, irrespective of that consequence. What is the best example of that? Yeah, you can say, very good. That's a Bhagavad example. Where the consequence is that, you do it, you're going to lose everything, and still he does it. And he actually loses everything, but of course, in one sense, he benefits. Very good. Arjuna where?
After the war, he's going to lose his relatives and all.
Yes.
Still he
Very good. That's what I was looking for. Arjuna's example in the Bhagavad Gita. Where in the first chapter, Arjuna is giving all kinds of reasons why we should not fight the war. And please remember, his reasons were valid reasons only. He was not talking anything just like that. He was saying that, Arey, my God, so many millions of men will die, so many women will become widow. What will happen to society? Everything will go for a toss. Just for 5 of us to become kings.
Deontological ethics he is telling.
Yeah, no, he's thinking about consequence. He's thinking both. But he's primarily focusing on the consequence part. Krishna is saying, forget it. Even if the consequence is terrible, you stick to your dharma. That is what Krishna is saying in Bhagavad Gita. Na? It's a reversal, bro. Krishna is saying, forget all what you're talking is. Means Krishna just smashes all his theories. Though what he said was correct only. It indeed happened that way, right? All the millions of men died. There was a social upheaval. Everything was true. But still Krishna felt that is not important. That consequence, even if that consequence, there is a social disturbance, but this is more important to establish that the right person rules the country and not that Duryodhana. This example is more important, even if it comes at a loss of millions of lives. That was Krishna's, determination. And we have to accept that is dharma, because Krishna is the Murtiman, Murti Swarupa, Dharma Murti Swarupa. You understood the point, na? So there we see that consequentialism is smashed. Now we will consider some examples where consequentialism is considered and your deontological ethics is crushed out.
Killing of Drona, Karna.
Very good. Killing of Drona. That is the best example. Deontological ethics is crushed because of the killing of Drona. If you see, Krishna is telling Yudhishthir, hey Yudhishthir, you have 2 choices. Either minimize violence, or tell a lie. If you don't kill this Drona, this fellow will annihilate our whole army by today afternoon. Everything will be finished. You can go back to the forest. Krishna tells that, because Krishna adopts what is called a Shukra Niti in Mahabharata. Brihaspati Niti means the straight way. Kanika Niti means cheating. Shukraniti means to do the right thing, you bend your finger. That means you have a right purpose to achieve, but to achieve that straight means it's not working. So bend your finger and achieve, for the right establishment of dharma. So that is the niti that Krishna is employing. So Krishna tells that, this Drona, this fellow, you have to kill him. You have to tell a lie, and you only have to tell, because others will say a lie, he is not going to believe anybody. But if you say Ashwatthama is killed, he will believe. Tell. So he is breaking totally the so-called deontological ethics where one has to, speak the truth. One cannot lie that somebody is dead just to give a shock to someone and, and then kill him. And it totally goes against that ethics. But somehow in that particular situation, consequentialism was placed at a great importance. More than, the so-called deontological ethics and what the Shastra says in general as to, what is correct. Even from Satyam Bruyat, Priyam Bruyat, nothing justifies telling that lie from that perspective. But Krishna, in this situation at least, he gives the result, the consequence more importance. So that's one very good example. Then of course throughout the war we see many such things. Krishna himself going with a big thing to kill Bhishma. That goes against the deontological ethics. So Krishna said, I will not fight. Now suddenly he has taken a big wheel and going to kill Bhishma. Arjuna is saying, don't kill. He is saying, no, forget it, man. I am going to kill this fellow only. Forget all my vows and everything. I cannot tolerate this. I am going to kill him right away. So Arjuna is more concerned about the deontological ethics that Krishna represents. Saying that, if you kill like this, what will happen? What will people say about you? So he kind of pleads him and brings him back. But anyway, nevertheless, where Krishna cared only for the consequence. And the consequence was the death of Bhishma, which he wanted to achieve. Some more examples where consequentialism was important, if you see, is the story where Krishna, there are two stories that Krishna speaks in the Mahabharata at one particular place to Arjuna during the war when he is trying to encourage him to do these kind of things. Where he says about one Brahmin called Kaushika. He said this Brahmin Kaushika was very much attached to telling the truth. And he says that because he was very much attached to telling the truth, once in a forest he was sitting and there were, he saw a group of pilgrims running and hiding in a bush. And behind them some dacoits came. And the dacoits asked, where are those people? And this Kaushika, because he was so attached to telling the truth, he said that here they are, under the bush. And the Kaushika goes to hell for it. So Krishna says that you should consider consequence. You should not be attached. Krishna is telling Arjuna the story to illustrate the point that consequence must be considered. You cannot tell truth like this. Where they come and they kill him. On the other hand, Krishna gives another example of a hunter called Balaka. Balaka or Ballika or whatever, some hunter. And this hunter, this hunter was the most cruel hunter. But it seems in that place, there was one animal which was very, very wicked and ferocious, and it was the cause of death of so many innocent people in the country. That animal, it was a very ferocious animal. But this hunter was very powerful, and he had killed many people in the past, many animals. But somehow on one day he kills this animal when he is drinking water. And because of that he gets a Sukruti for saving so many potential lives, and he gets an upliftment considering that he has done some pious activity of protecting people in the country by killing a cruel animal. So he gets pious activity. So Krishna is saying that, see, even such a person, the consequence is being considered. That, he killed something which was such a big harm to all the people in that country that he got uplifted for that. So anyway, so there are cases where in the Shastra, consequence has its own basis. That's why this verse is also there in the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna is saying that action in Tamogun means what? Without considering scripture and without considering the consequences. Okay, so now we have to reconcile the two. Okay, so before that, any question, or I think we will reconcile the two first and then we will have questions. Okay, go ahead.
First chapter you said now just for the story of Brahmana. So one thing is that he should speak truth, but other thing also Shastra will say that we should not be called to someone getting killed or something. So what I'm saying is that
Higher dharma.
there could be dharma is saying two things.
No, but primarily what we are trying to say is primarily in that situation, consequence is the most important thing to consider. You understood the point? Consequence is the most important thing to consider. You may even have to say a lie, but that's fine. See, generally the Shastra does not say that, say a lie. It doesn't say like that. It says that you should speak the truth. Saying lie is not glorified in many places. Saying truth is only glorified. Saying lie is considered a sin. Correct, no? Okay.
Prabhu, what is this Bhagavad Gita shloka? What it says, no? Exact words?
Which Bhagavad
You are
Gita?
quoting just.
Oh, it's 18.25. You can see. It basically says that the action of that dharma is ignorance, tamoguni, which does not consider scripture and it does not consider future bondage or future result. Future bondage or violence or distress. Future thing that happens. Something that doesn't consider these two is act of
Ignorance.
Okay, so now we come to the question how to reconcile the two. So can anybody suggest how to reconcile the two?
Actually, this deontological ethics is the main thing which we should follow. And there is some conflict or something at that time, look at the consequence and decide.
Dharmo Hidesha Adhipurush.
Fantastic. So he's saying that deontology is on the deontology.
No, when there is some conflict or some critical problem, at that time only apply consequentialism and decide. Otherwise, consequentialism should not be applied generally for everything.
Very good. Anybody else with any other opinion?
Take guidance.
Sometimes you cannot take guidance at that time. No?
Most of the time in the world, you are in the battle. You have to take a decision. You got
You have to equip yourself in such a way that you can take a decision.
Yeah,
According to that.
that's good.
What did you say?
Go ahead. You have to equip yourself in such a way that you can take your own decisions at times.
So actually, I would like to agree with Prabhuji that probably in the Shastras they've got both the things. For example, we're talking about Arjun saying that I won't fight because these are the consequences.
Yeah.
So Krishna said that if you don't fight, then what are the other consequences? Right? So if Duryodhana becomes the king, then there'll be probably more severe consequences. He hasn't said that, I'm saying that.
He hasn't said that, but the point is Krishna basically more emphasizes on what is right and what should be done.
Right.
Without bothering about the consequence.
No, what I'm trying to
In
say
that
is
context.
what I'm trying to say is that the Shastras
Yeah,
will have both the points,
Yeah.
So
That means the point is a condition, what we are understanding from what he's saying is a conditioned soul cannot accurately predict consequences. We imagine this is consequence. Okay, now putting it more precisely, consequentialism in itself is more pratyaksha and anumana praman. Whereas deontological ethics is shabda praman. Please remember, when we say that we have to follow Shabda Praman, that does not mean Pratyaksha Anumana Praman are out of the window. Pratyaksha Anumana Praman have their own set of validity also. But they don't supersede Shabda Praman. They remain with Shabda Praman, they remain. You understood, na? They are tied along with Shabda Praman. But still Shabda Praman only assumes significance. But that does not mean that Pratyaksha Praman, Anumana Praman has no basis only. It has its own basis. Correct? So, when we talk about consequentialism, it is mainly Anumana Praman or Pratyaksha Praman. It is based on what we are seeing and what we are able to speculate about the future. Our sight and our speculation are always limited by 4 defects. That is why our ability to predict consequence need not be correct. And many times it may be wrong. It may be correct. It may be wrong also. So that is why it is to be taken with a pinch of salt only. Correct. Our ability to predict the consequences is the same. And also another thing, if you see from the Western modern perspective, because these people have embraced consequentialism so much, the only thing they give importance is to, whatever justifies the end is the means. That becomes the philosophy, correct? Because, putting it more directly, ultimately, what is right and what is wrong, you should have some benchmark to start with. If you talk only from the realm of consequentialism, which the Western philosophers are talking, because I'll tell you from where all this topic comes. There are many Western philosophers and scholars who talk on Indian subjects who doubt certain events of Mahabharata. For example, they feel that if Yudhishthira was such a Dharmaraj, how did he allow the disrobing to happen? See, such a bad consequence is happening. So, either 2 things. Either he is not Dharmaraj, or this event only did not happen, and it is an extra event in the Mahabharata. Alright, you understand? This is the effect of consequentialism. People come to such a conclusion. Because they have their own understanding of right and wrong, and they try to fit characters from Shastra in that. You understood the point, na? And because of the general consequentialism understanding, where you are only concerned about what will happen, that is basically based on Pratyaksha and Praman, and you have no foundation to begin with. So what is right, what is wrong, who decides? That is why, for example, we have modern day problems or issues like live-in. So if you go to an ordinary person in the world and without Shabda Praman, if you start debating, you will lead nowhere. Because he will justify even only as the best thing from his own set of Pratyaksha and Anumana. But from Shabda Praman perspective, you can understand that he is going wrong. But only from the consequence perspective, he will be correct. He will say that, see, you people get married, you get divorced, I live in, I understand whether this person is actually fit for me. But only when you live with 2-3 months with a person, you understand. If I am working, I am married. Otherwise, I am not. What is the problem? He will challenge you. Without bringing in Shabda Praman, how do you challenge with that? You get stuck in a way. You understand what I am saying? You got the point. So basically, when a person takes only consequentialism, it basically becomes atheism. And it leads to disaster only. Which is general is the world's philosophy today. Because the West is more towards this. You will not believe there are many Western scholars who have written essays stating that the Bhagavad Gita emphasizes only consequentialism. I mean, it's amazing that they have taken out only that perspective from Gita. Where they are saying that Krishna is a man, he is very pragmatic, practical, and he is concerned only with consequence and not about following rules whimsically. There is apparently they are Krishna Bhaktas. They have written scholarly articles on Krishna and the Bhagavad Gita, but they have brought out only this philosophy out, leaving aside the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where Arjuna's arguments about consequentialism were all thrown aside by Krishna. Krishna has dismissed it. Of no consequence only, of whatever he said. Krishna doesn't even answer his questions. He just goes ahead with, what is Dharma, what is Atma and all that. But still they have come to this conclusion because they are wearing the spectacles of consequentialism. They see only that in the Shastra also. They feel that their understanding of Shastra, like, this is only correct. Other understanding is wrong, they feel like. There are people like this today in the world. You understand the point?
Then how do you explain this cautious example?
Yeah, so now we come to this point. So that is why what we understand is that Shabda Praman is primarily important for us. In that framework, we see consequences also. Shabda Praman is primarily important. In that framework, we see consequences. So, for example, coming to all our examples, Kaushik's example, what we see is Shabda Praman says you say the truth. But the consequence here is deadly. You are seeing the death of people, which is immediately going to happen. You understand the point? So, at that point, a person understands that no, because violence has to be minimized. I cannot allow these people to be innocently killed by these butchers who are going around with this thing. Or, for example, in the Mahabharata again, if you see Drona, if you see in the 15th day of battle, what happens is Drona starts using celestial weapons on ordinary soldiers. Krishna says, my God, this fellow's gone mad, man. He's taking celestial weapons on ordinary soldiers, and if he fights like this, in half an hour, the whole army only will be finished. He's gone crazy. He has to be stopped. So, because this fellow is behaving so terribly, forget. I mean, you cannot, deal with him the right way. The Brihaspati Niti is not going to work over here. Lie is only going to stop this fellow from doing it. Because, so the point is, so again, what we can also see is that it takes, at least to take such decisions at such level, it takes a lot of whatever spiritual maturity. Of course, here it is Krishna himself, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, so there is no question of being spiritually immature. But, such a person is able to see that yes, it is to be done. So, that means consequentialism is seen in the context of Shabda only. It cannot be seen. If you remove it, then all kinds of arguments come. I'll tell you from where this whole argument has come today. Then you will understand the real basis of consequentialism. There are people within the ISKCON world or whatever, so-called devotee community, especially in America, etc., who a couple of years back or even now, who have been advocating, for example, because the world is advocating gay marriage. Correct? They are advocating gay marriage. What is the logic for gay marriage? What are they saying? So for example, what are devotees who support it saying? They are using consequentialism as a theory. The devotees who support it, they are saying that if a person is having such a background, orientation, if you don't allow him to get married to a person of the same sex, he will do it with so many people and that will be very bad for him. But if you allow him to get married with one, at least maybe only with one person, at least he will be little regulated. It is better than that. So the consequence is good. So because the consequence is good, he should be allowed. Are you understanding? So there are devotees who have taken this understanding that consequentialism is very important based on Bhagavad Gita 18.25. Seeing that how You have to do something with, if you do something without considering future reaction, then that is tamoguna. And for such a person who is so much conditioned to homosexuality, if you don't allow him to do this, he is going to go even off track. So let us at least regulate him by allowing him to marry a same-sex person. So let us allow it within a devotee community. And they have argued based on the Bhagavad Gita verse and all these other points. So there it goes fundamentally wrong. Because you have to consider Shabda Praman. Because Shabda Praman mein Manu Samhita says that this is a very big sin. This cannot be allowed at all. So there Shabda Praman has to be taken. You forget all your consequences. So there Shabda Praman has to be taken. You understood the point, na? So that is the point. So when you forget Shabda Praman and you promote that means in essence what we are trying to say is, if you are not well grounded in the Shastra, and you try to think in terms of what is best for your spiritual life, there is all chance that you will go wrong. That's a very simple one-line statement which we can conclude. If you are not well grounded in Shastra, in Shabda, and you mentally speculate, because mentally and intellectually you can come up with best reasons for anything. You can defeat 10 people in argument and debate also. But then ultimately Shastra and authority has to be considered. If you forget to consider them, then there is trouble.
Actually,
this is the basic thing. So, Sadhu Shastra. Yeah.
I can say one more point over here is that, largely speaking, the Shabda Praman was written by people, keeping in mind the consequences which could be there in life. So, for example, what I mean to say is that they have already considered the consequences and we have put in the best solution over there.
Yeah, but again, if you see, for every rule, it is not mentioned. See, it's like, for example, what you're saying is correct only. That means the Shastra, they have written things considering the highest possible consequences.
Correct.
That is correct only. But still, for given situations, you may not find a quote. So you will have to, like for example, live in or something like that. You may not get an immediate quote very easily to understand whether it is same or not.
But one time you say that they
have to really get it out.
They have, not allowed that, keeping in mind the consequences which will follow later on.
Yeah, correct. So there is Guru Sadhu Shastra which has to be considered. That's the
But again, the question is that how to apply practically, because like Kaushik's example,
Yeah.
one may also say that Kaushik said the right thing, truth, and it was right because these guys were supposed to get punished for this sins by these robbers.
No. That is the wrong application of philosophy. You cannot say that. See, karma is only a past reflection. Karma is never to be applied to understand what should be done. This is a very important thing. Please remember that. That means karma in astrology is only for past reflection. Past reflection means कुछ हो गया तो अभी सोचो भाई शायद कर्मा के हिसाब से रहा रहेगा, मैंने बुरा कर्मा किया रहेगा, मेरा हाथ टूट गया. It is not for action. It is not that while I am driving a motorcycle, I purposely, put two mobiles and I talk, let me see whether my karma is to break my hand. You understand the point, na? Karma is only for past reflection. It is not to decide what you are going to do in the future.
So then that means that karma is just an excuse to...
So karma is to reflect on the past and see that, see I have done like these things, so I have done, now I should be careful with my acts. If I am not, I will again have to suffer like that.
So what I mean to say is that is more of a good thought. That okay, whatever good or bad has happened to you, take it as your karma, because if you don't do that, then you will become disturbed. You will trouble others also around you. So
it is not
one can say that
it
karma is
is
actually only a thought. It's only a philosophy. There is no basis about that.
No, there is no basis for your future action. That's what I'm saying. That means, like you are saying na, if the chore has come and you say that, udhar hi baithe ho, uska karma hai wo marne ka aaj. You decided that on his behalf.
No, it's not that way. Kaushik was following the Shastra that please tell truth. So he was telling the truth. Whatever is the consequence after that, it should be right because he is following the Shastras.
No, that is where Krishna is saying you should not. That is where Krishna is saying consequence also has to be considered. That is what Krishna is exactly explaining to Karna. So Arjuna, in the context of this Drona killing only, I think, he is telling all the story in the Mahabharata in the middle of the fight. That you see, if this Kaushik did not consider consequence, he foolishly stuck to the truth, understanding fully well that all these people are going to be chopped off by the robbers. He had to go to hell for that. There is another story also where the Brahman shows a hand somewhere and his hand is cow and his hand is chopped off in the next day. Where the cow ran away and his hand is chopped off in the next day.
Then there's a risk, that we are not the best judge to...
No, you're a Brahmana. Don't you know cow is not to be killed?
No, not in this case. For all of us.
Yeah. So according to your situation, you know what is dharma, right? How can you suggest something and get away with it in the name of truth?
When we say the consequences, we may not be able to judge properly.
No. See, some cases are very clear. In Kaushik's case, where is the ambiguity in the consequence? We are not talking about a very ambiguous case. It's a very clear, crystal clear case. The guys are hiding behind the bush and the thief has come. Are you going to point over there or are you going to point somewhere else? You point there, you pay the price. That's it. Simple. Correct. Consequence is also important. It's not that it's not. But in the framework of Shabda. So, this other homosexuality example that I gave, that is a case of considering consequence without considering Shabda. You understood? If you hear these devotees who speak about this, you will actually get convinced that what they are saying is right only. Because they so much are, into the consequence, they present it in such a way, but you forget that you have forgotten Guru Sadhu Shastra totally. Because Guru Sadhu Shastra does not support it. So you cannot. Here you cannot bring all your logic. Because your logic can go wrong. You understand the point?
So Kaushik would have pondered somewhere else. They would have got saved, but then he has told a lie. So he gets
No. But from Krishna's perspective, that is dharma. That is dharma. See, that is what we are reading 18.25. What is 18.25 which we read Bhagavad Gita verse? That dharma is tamoguni, which does not consider scriptural injunctions and which does not consider future bondage, distress, violence. Both are there in it. You cannot forget the second one. Hey now, I'm भूल नहीं सकते इसको.
balancing him.
Yeah, go ahead.
Right now there is another argument related to that vegan. I just wanted to know what in such case I like to follow the
No dairy products.
I forgot, there is some official declaration that they have given. I read that some days ago. I think it is something like, as far as possible, we should buy products of cow. We should buy milk of cows that are protected, ahimsa milk. But if not, then we buy or something like that. They have given 2-3 things. I don't think ISKCON has taken a very official stand in that. They have left it more to the person, but they have said in principle we should support cow protection and increase it. And whenever possible, if somebody has access to ahimsa free milk, that means getting milk from cows which will never be slaughtered, you should go for that. And that time you shouldn't consider 5 rupees, 10 rupees like that. थोड़ा ज़्यादा महंगा रहेगा ना? No problem. Because according to the scripture, Krishna's Prabhu writes the article, according to Manu Samhita, milk should not be sold. The reason it says milk should not be sold, in the context, you should understand the context, why it says milk should not be sold before making any conclusion. Krishna's Prabhu says that milk should not be sold because when you start selling milk, the Shastra explains, you will get into a competitive mood. And in that competitive mood, you will forget the welfare of cows and you will kill them. Because by protecting old cows, because if there are two people, one who is protecting cows and giving milk, and another who is not protecting old cows and bulls and everything and giving milk, obviously this person can give milk at cheaper rate. सवाल ही नहीं ना, उसका expense कम है ना, बाकी cows bulls को maintain ही नहीं कर रहे हो, this fellow's expense is always going to be more. So if you get into an economic development mode with respect to cows, what will happen ultimately? Cows have to be killed. That's exactly what has happened today. Because today's society is a capitalistic society, where the money is only important. When money is important, cow is not important. The cow that is unproductive is to be chopped off because he doesn't make any economic sense. That cow doesn't make any economic sense, we maintain. So he writes actually, that's why traditionally milk and all, was not sold as in, it was not a commercial product like the way it is today. It is because it became commercial, all these problems are. So anyway, okay, any other question or comment? So, go back on that.
We spoke about ontological ethics and consequential, and we spoke about the ideal world and the real world. So does it mean like the entire discussion that went about, it seems that the ideal world is somewhat closer or equal to the ontological ethics, where the high standards.
Yeah, it is like that. It is like that. See, that is why, for example, that's why from the Vaishnava perspective, one can go back to Godhead only when he fulfill ideal conditions. Na? That means, correct, na? Yes. That means what I'm trying to say is if somebody is compromising his spiritual life in some way, like for example, we have 4 regulative principles. So, for example, the 4th regulative principle, let us say some people find it really difficult to follow. So they may not be at the real world. I mean, no, they will not be in the ideal world. They will be at their own real world where they are struggling with it. But then from the Vaishnava perspective, if you want to achieve the pure love of God, that's an impediment. There's a problem. The person has to go to the ideal world in order to really obtain love of God. Correct? Yes or no? That is like that. So that is an internal struggle which everybody has. Every sadhaka has. He is fighting it. He will decide how long he will take to go back.
In the beginning you spoke about...
Yeah. I'll just come back to 1 minute.
Prabhupada reducing 64 rounds to 32 and then 16. Or like him crossing the oceans.
Yeah.
Like in those cases, both
Prabhupada crossed the ocean, if you see. That goes against the ontological ethics because the Shastra sannyasi cannot cross the ocean.
So the consequences Prabhupada considered. If he was not
consequence. There was a risk.
Yeah.
But Prabhupada was strong enough to bear the risk. Please remember, every sannyasi is not strong enough to bear such risks. See, the Shastra, why it says that don't cross the ocean, that rule is valid only. That rule is even valid today. It is dangerous to cross the ocean. Because when you go away from dharmic place like India and traditional India, you are going to find you're going to find terrible problems actually to maintain your sannyas. So Prabhupada considered the consequence and went there taking great risk, but because Prabhupada was situated so deeply, he could withstand that risk. So there is a risk-taking capacity for every individual. You cannot exceed the risk-taking capacity just for the sake of the consequence. That means, in other words, put simply, just for sake of expanding preaching, which is the consequence, let us say, everybody cannot take so much risks and forget the basic thing. Somebody may be able to take a risk, like Prabhupada could take a risk like that. But ordinary sadhaka may not be able to take that risk. He will fall down. He has to be very careful. Correct?
And the reducing of rounds. So
Yeah.
there is both consequences. If you would not have reduced, people would not have come.
See, but again, here there is nothing like that ethics. It's not that, 64 rounds, 32 rounds, 16 rounds. This is a smriti, it is not a shruti. You understood? It is not a... See, the Shastric point is you should chant the holy name of the Lord. The Shastric point is not 16 round, 20 round, 28 rounds. It doesn't say that. Even Kali Santran Upanishad, what does it say? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, 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 Iti Shodashakam Nam, Kali Kalmasanasanam, Nato Paraturpaya, Sarvavedi Shudushade. Or what does the Brihad Narayana Purana say? Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Kevalam, Kalo Nasteva, Nasteva, Nasteva. So that is called Shruti. So there is a difference between Shruti and Smriti. Shruti means eternal rules. What is the eternal rule? Holy name is the way for deliverance. Eternal rule. What is Smriti? Smriti is an application of that rule in a given circumstance. Who does that? Rishis or great saints can do that. How to apply a rule in a given situation? So Bhaksan Sarjan applied it in a particular way, saying that Pujaris will chant 64 rounds, others will chant 32, others will chant 16. Alag standard stuff. That was his application. That was also Smriti only. Prabhupada went to the West and he understood in this modern lifestyle these guys cannot chant 64 rounds. If I said something, who would work? They would chant nothing. He said 16 rounds. So it was considering, but that is a Smriti. That's a Smriti. That's not a Shruti. That's not
the logical approach is based on Shruti. I mean, somebody...
No. Even Smriti is based on the approach only. So here, this what we are discussing today, that does not figure in your argument on 16 and 64. That does not come at all. Because in any case, even that 64 was not a Shruti principle. That's what I am trying to say.
Yeah.
It was a Smriti principle only, I am saying. You understood what I am saying then? It was an application principle. It was not a written down code in any Vedic literature. That doesn't say 64.
So what I mean to say is that in deontological, when we say that right behavior means act according to Shastra, it could also mean act according to the Guru Sadhu. Guru and...
Guru, but primarily Shabda, supported by Guru and Sadhu.
Yeah.
Because Guru and Sadhu should also support Shabda only, remember. They cannot go against that. They are also bound by the framework of Shabda. Like for example, can we consider Rajneesh as a Sadhu? We cannot. Why? Because he is not bound by Shabda. He is talking his own thing. He is not a Sadhu, na? So Sadhu means who is in line with that Shabda. He is talking his own philosophy. Wo to nahi chalega. Or I will tell you, even those statements in the Shastra, like Maharaj was giving one lecture once, I think I'll end with this. There is one verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam 7th canto which says that if you pour small drops of ghee in fire, the fire does not extinguish. But if you put a big quantity of ghee in fire, the fire will extinguish. Narada tells this to Yudhishthira in the context that if somebody is enjoying sense gratification, thoda, uska fire बढ़ता जाएगा. But a huge deluge of sense gratification sometimes makes a person totally frustrated and burns the fire off. Are you understanding? It is there in the Shastra. But the interesting thing Maharaj was saying in that lecture, Prabhupada also writes the same point there. Though it is given, it is too risky a method. No sadhu or saint has preached this method. Maharaj, when he gave lecture on this verse, he asked the question, what if the ghee that you pour is not enough to Ashtu Krishna fire? It will only blaze up. You understood? See, that verse is there in the Mahabharata. I just tell you that verse. It's there in the Bhagavad only. All of you know this verse, right? What I'm talking about?
What?
We'll go back. I mean, we'll conclude the discussion. Otherwise, we'll go back and we'll be confused. कुछ तो सुला क्या लेक्चर में सुला ज़्यादा से नहीं करेगा तो बंद हो जाएगा. ऐसा प्रभु ने कहना बहुत क्या चल रहा है आजकल? पब्लिक कुछ भी बोल रहे हैं. One second.
Out of context.
Yeah, I cannot take it. No, it is there. I'll come to it because I heard Maharaj's lecture on this once. Long back, Maharaj had given a lecture on this. I unfortunately forgot which verse. And when is because I wanted to hear that once again, but.
Can you say Prabhu for a particular person? Yes.
Hey, a minute. I'll go to that verse only. Just wait 1 second.
This philosophy is not for the civilized people. What Narad Muni is speaking about.
Yeah.
It is for the tribal people.
It is for the and it is also but it is there. But that aspect it does not come like that in the Bhagavatam. What you are saying that doesn't come like that. Ye tribal log ke liye Narad Muni is just mentioning it. That is a
Either it comes in purport or
नहीं बाबा वर्ष है श्लोक है वो भागवत का. 1 minute रुको I'll go to it.
this thing is for tribal people might be there in the purport.
One sec. Anybody can help me quickly find that verse out? Wait. One second. Narad Muni talks to Yudhishthir Maharaj. 7th canto it is. Last 5 chapters में आता है वो. 2 minute. Yeah, one sec, I'll get it. मिलेगा. चलो 2 minutes. I didn't any intent to speak on that, so that's why I didn't do a study before only. किधर है वो? Hey.
You control it. Ghee. Search for ghee, na? Extinguisher, we'll find some. We'll faster to find it.
Oh, unfortunately.
Sense gratification.
For example, when V.Shrikanth and V.Shrikanth, so they both give each other answers. Why you want to
Oh yeah, I mean I am unable to get that hold of it. It's there, 7th canto, but नहीं मिल रहा है वो. Anyway, the verse is I'll have to just search. वो 5 chapter में कहीं तो है 7.11. I forgot some key words in that, so I'm not good at searching in this volume. Anyway.
We'll announce during process.
Yeah, take it. Anyway, I remember that verse very clearly. What it basically says is just like few drops of ghee in fire does not extinguish the fire but only increases it. Narad Muni says that by pouring large amount of ghee, the fire can go off. Okay? So this is spoken in the context of, that little enjoyment sometimes it only keeps increasing, but a huge one, kind of extinguishes everything. So in that, Maharaj, when he gives the lecture on that verse, he says that though such a thing is mentioned offhand, it is just given in the Bhagavad, in the scripture as one thing, no Acharya has ever recommended such a methodology. So you cannot, so that is why Guru Sadhu Shastra is there. That means even though you have the scripture, you have to look at Guru and Sadhu also. Because it is a method which is extremely risky. Because who guarantees that you will reach that level of sense gratification where, you will actually get totally burnt out from it? Who guarantees? It is at some particular point it will happen, but it may just not happen with you. It is just like saying, if I become a very big demon, then Narayan will come to kill me. But who guarantees that? You may become a small enough demon that, material nature only will kill you. You have to become like Hiranyakashipu, where you will get liberation. Because the Shastra, again, that is also mentioned. Narada Muni is saying that, there are many ways of liberation. He is saying, Bayat, Kamso, this, that, all of us achieved the same. In fact, Narada Muni says that people like Shishupal, they have been more absorbed in Krishna than people like me is this. So now if somebody says, I will achieve liberation by becoming a big demon, it is not, it is there. Narada is saying that is also a way to achieve liberation. He is saying that, oh hey, but what is the guarantee you will become such a big demon? You may just fall somewhere in the middle itself. And then you will, material nature will knock you off. You will not even reach that.
So Yayati is in that category?
You may say that. I mean, see, you cannot, they got frustrated and they came. But again, see, everybody is getting frustrated in the material world, but everybody is not becoming a devotee also. Na? The greatest is that they came to Krishna. I mean, to analyze whether they enjoyed that much that everything got burnt off, that is too difficult to say. And another thing I will tell you, in Kali Yuga, that process surely does not work. You know why? Simple thing. Kali Yuga, your facility to enjoy the senses is not there. So you cannot enjoy that much also. By definition, you can enjoy little only. So there is no use of it. The fire will never go up by that. Means to enjoy like that, you should have that kind of body and senses and everything, which nobody has in Kali.
And also time.
Huh?
Also the time.
That's what? The time factor. So that is why Hare Nama, Eva Kevalam, Karunaste, Vanaste, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare, Hare. And final, the conclusion is very simple. The conclusion is that one has to abide by Shabda Brahman only, and at the same time, one does consider consequence in that perspective. Seeing Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. But because today's modern world has gone a lot into consequentialism only. And the more they are going, they are feeling they are very smart. But they are actually getting more and more entangled. It's all consequentialism only. It's all consequentialism. If I have this baby, what will happen? Let me kill it off. This is better for me. All this is consequentialism only. You are not considering only ethics. You are only thinking about the consequence and you are acting like that. But the problem is you are thinking of consequence with your anumana, with your own speculative mind, which is all going wrong. And the other example that I gave you, like even though Yudhishthir did not consider consequence and gambled, means knowing fully well, he just stuck to ethics, but the consequence was totally different. That means another thing we understand is that we cannot predict what will be the consequence by acting right. We may think by acting right there is only disaster, but sometimes acting right temporarily may bring some difficult situation, but in the long term, how it will change your life that you cannot predict. That only Krishna knows. That is another thing we see from the Yudhishthira's gambling match. That though the immediate consequence was terrible, but the long-term consequence was wonderful because they had a very good time in 13 years in the forest. They had so much nice spiritual discussion, they met so many saint sages. Arjuna was in the heaven for 5 years in the 12-year exile period, He met Indra, he took so many weapons and, fantastic time they had. Duryodhana was suffering in fact.
Just one more point.
Yeah.
Do we have any reference regarding mercy killing? Like in the doctors, they have this mercy killing because the patient is suffering for a long time.
Consequentialism again in action.
Do you
Yes. Of course, you can't kill a patient. See, what you can do, I will tell you from Shastric perspective. You are perfectly valid in saying that I don't want to stay on ventilator. Sometimes what these doctors say, ventilator nikaloge to marega. Nikalo mat. Khoon kar rahe ho? No, I don't want to stay on ventilator. That is external thing. I don't want to stay on ventilator. That's fine. You understood? Like Prabhupada told, please when I'm passing away, don't let me pass away with tubes in my body. On the day Prabhupada passed away, it is said that the doctor Kaviraj, he tells Tamakrishna Goswami on 14th November in the afternoon that since the last 12 hours he has not passed urine. So right now we have to do dialysis something and remove the urine out. If you don't do that, he will go into coma and in some hours he will pass away. So Tamakrishna Maharaj and Bhavananda, they discuss and they are discussing what should we do. And they finally decide, let us not put tubes in Prabhupada's body, let him pass away. And they tell the Kaviraj, and the Kaviraj is a devotee, so he says, I agree with you. Though I mentioned this as a doctor, I know what you are saying from the Vaishnava perspective is perfect. It doesn't make any sense passing away with tubes in the body. So that is fine. But killing a person is wrong. Because there the idea is that I am suffering. So that's suicide. Assisted killing. And the point is, see, the consequence, though they are saying, mercy killing should be done and all, the consequences can be greatly damaging. Because tomorrow you can even have a situation where somebody doesn't want to die. He's ready to suffer, but his family finishes him off and later portrays it as a mercy killing case. How can you distinguish between the two? How can you distinguish? So the point is, though they are saying consequences good and all that, mercy killing should be allowed, ultimately it will be a disaster only. It will just lead to murders of old people, that's all. They'll finish old people off. Their children only will finish them off, saying that this is best consequence. Consequentialism के हिसाब से why to have old man suffering at home? Headache ही है ना अपने को. वो खत्म कर दो उसको, आसान हो जाएगा अपना life.
That is why everything is this abortion. Everything started small.
Yeah. So consequentialism is always this kind of consequentialism that without Shabda Pramana is dangerous only. This is the exact point. What do you say? Right? Yeah.
He started about that there's always a tension between justice and mercy.
Yeah.
So then, how can we reconcile these things? That because there's so many things happening even in the ISKCON world, I to speak about the outside world. Then how can we exactly reconcile for this Vaishnava community?
As far as the justice and mercy principle, both are there. That's what the thing is. Both are there. Again, if you see from the author of ethics, that means from the textbook, if you see, you will get some solution. Like for example, the textbook perspective, Ashwatthama had to be killed only. There was no chance of leaving him. So, but then you just consider overall, you consider everything, the mercy aspect and all that, and you arrive at something. So you just balance it out. Because that's what Krishna himself is showing. Though Krishna himself in both cases, in Rukmi as well as in the case of Ashwatthama, he wanted to kill them. But he decides not to kill them at later. I mean, Krishna changes his mind. From deciding to kill, he's saying that, okay, theek hai, nahi marenge. Because others, ladies are saying don't kill. He kind of agrees to it.
Now, like in the ISKCON world, we do not have directly Krishna, nor do we have a Acharya as Prabhupada was existing earlier. Now what we have is the GBC that is existing. And there are also so many aspects, so like...
Yeah, so but I personally feel that, justice and all is there, but mercy is very important. I mean, if you see, because, Kali Yuga, everybody is subject to mistakes and all, so you cannot be so ruthless and, punish a person. Kali Yuga, that is what, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, in this age, he did not come with a discuss to kill people in the name of justice. Jagai, Madai and all. He was more on the merciful side only, Like Mahaprabhu is more known as a magnanimous incarnation, who did not come with the iron rod of justice. If he had come with the iron rod of justice, nobody would have survived in Kali Yuga. So basically the mercy factor works actually, in Kali Yuga especially. Because to find righteous people is very rare, it's very difficult. Even though we are talking all this, we ourselves are struggling with our own righteousness. So, the mercy aspect is extremely important in the community of devotees. You understand what I'm saying? Because that's what Mahaprabhu's movement is all about. It's about mercy only. You don't see Mahaprabhu knocking off people, with a Sudarshan Chakra. So there is no use of doing that. Justice does not means. Yeah.
Even this mercy and only in some extreme cases where there is too much mercy and too much judgment, only this consequentialism generally is accepted. For example, Drona, if he has to be merciful, it is wrong. So then at that point only consequentialism.
Yeah, it was a very, very, I mean, if you see the story fully, that's why it says that in Mahabharata you get everything. If you see at the 15th day what Drona is doing, celestial weapons using on ordinary people and knocking off people like anything. such a person remaining truthful and saying that okay, keep killing everybody is nonsense. I mean, that's what Krishna says. Band kar do iska. Finish him off now. The time that he goes away, his days are over.
Broadly, I would say that deontological approach is justice and consequential approach is mercy.
No. There's no connection between the two. That is totally different.
Can we
I
say
started somewhere and I ended somewhere.
Can we say the extreme of this mercy or judgment when it goes and when it creates some wrong consequence, at that time we can use consequences, something like that.
Yeah,
Something
see,
like
that means you
Under-
cannot be, you cannot be overly merciful also.
For example, this Drona, if we show mercy seeing the scriptures, it will not work. So
Like I tell you, for example, most European countries today, they have abolished capital punishment totally. No, even if people like somebody like Kasab goes and kills 200 people, they will keep 14 years him in jail nicely and release him. That is one extreme of so-called mercy. Kya mercy? Itna mercy kaiki? Oh what? Kill him, man. Understood, na? So that extreme is always troublesome only. You got the point, na? That is why Indian government also secretly they killed them because they knew there will be opposition. There will be people who will say, forgive you. Maaf kar do usko, chhod do ba. He'll say, he's a nice man. He was bewildered by circumstance. He will improve. Maybe it is correct, but it is dangerous to set such an example. That's the point.
they don't apply for meat eating, killing and all those things. Whatever is consequently good for them, that is how they...
Okay.
You mentioned that purity would be like justice and connection they went for hunting.
Yeah.
So
They are playing the role of a Kshatriya na, over there. They are playing the role. He's saying that pure devotee Dasharath went for hunting and got in trouble. So how did he go in the first place? See, you have to see them at different levels also. See, one is the Leela aspect you are seeing them. Where, there is a Leela aspect also, na? Like Parikshit has to enter that Leela to, go to hunting, become tired and want water and put a snake so that Bhagavat will happen. So Leela Shakti is acting. From the spiritual perspective, Leela Shakti is acting on them. From another perspective, when they are in the world, they are just acting like ordinary Kshatriyas. How others are doing, they do. That's how it is. When they come, they play the role perfectly. So, like that. We see it in many ways. But so you also see that they get into trouble. To teach us an example. That, in hunting only all this trouble happens. You kill a human being and you get cursed and all that. But again, we see ethics over there. I mean, Govind Prabhu was explaining this. I'll just take this last and end with it. Dasharath, when he killed the Shravan Kumar, if you know the story, it is a very, very, amazing story. Dasharath, he has the Shabda Vedi weapon. That means he can shoot by Shabda. Kahan Shabda hai sunke, he can shoot target. So this Dasharath, this Shravan is filling water in his pot. So filling the water, gudu sound is coming. So gudu sound is, imagine there's some animal drinking. Mistaken judgment. Because later Dasharath reflects, how could I mistake animal drinking with this gudu of this vessel filling water? It's very distinctly vessel filling water. How did I mistake? He's cursing himself. So in any case, the point is when Dasharath shoots, Shravan dies and his cry comes to him. Dasharath comes there and sees Shravan is dying. And he requests him to remove the weapon. He does it, knowing fully well that because the weapon, when it was inside, it was causing tremendous pain, but he was not dying. But if he would remove the weapon, then the blood would come out and he would die. Shravan says, I cannot take this pain of this weapon in my body. Please remove it and allow me to die. But meanwhile, do one thing. My parents are waiting for water. They are old, blind people. Go and tell them that this has happened. Now there the story is such that when Dasharath removes it and he dies, he actually goes to his parents. From the consequentialism perspective, why would anybody do that? You know you are going to be cursed. You know you are in trouble. Today most of the time, gadbad kya, bhag jao pehla idhar. Run away. First thing, accident means first run away. Correct? Don't stay around only there to face the reality. How many people will face the reality? Nobody is there around you. But just put him, bury him and go walk off, man. That old man and old woman will bother. They'll keep crying and they'll die. He goes with the body there. He goes with the water, gives them water. They are blind. They are saying that who is this? This is not our son. He says, I have killed your son. Your son told me to tell you this. So they say that, you put us in fire. You cremate our son, because there's no one to maintain. He says, no, I'll take you to my kingdom. He says, we don't want all that. We want our son only to take care of this. We don't want another fellow to take care of this. You will take us to your kingdom and हमको चाहिए नहीं उसे. डालो हमको fire में डालो. He does it. Puts him. As they are being put in the fire, they pronounce this curse. It is not actually a curse also. If you see the Ramayana, it just comes out of that frustration. The way we are dying in separation of our son, you will die the same way. He just says it as he's going. So, if you see from a consequentialism perspective, Dasharatha acts perfectly according to ethics only, Shastra. Galti hua. Lekin that he's taking the responsibility of that mistake instead of just running away from there. Then just absconding. Which is what most modern people would have obviously done. Because they consider consequentialism. So that's a modern philosophy. Who cares for ethics? Yeah, he puts them in fire. So they say we are very old. हमको बहुत संभालेगा इधर. हमको खत्म कर दो. We just want to sati or whatever you want to call that with our son. They are going away. Finished. And because they are ascetics, they have that power to curse. And that curse has that effect.
So whatever decision you will take, you have to take the responsibility and do it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what you see here.
Whatever time they set up, whatever.
And most importantly, as far as possible, you act according to Shabda only, thinking about consequence in that perspective. But modern world, more it is progressing towards consequence, so that's why they find it very difficult to stand with dharma. That's why I started the whole discussion by talking about divorce as an example, right? Why even among our devotee community only, among all of us, let us be very frank about it. If suppose any of us had a very troubled marriage, the first thing we would think is just quit it. Correct? You don't have that patience to think that, this is the right dharma for me to do, even though it is difficult. How many of us have that? We don't have. Because in Kali Yuga, what is happening is our capacity of our senses to be patient, to be dhrida, everything is reducing. So, we are very fragile. So, thoda sa hua, chhod dete. Chodo. I mean, so many. I went to Kerala this time. 2 of my cousin sisters got divorced recently. Flimsy reasons. Nothing. No reason only to get divorced. फालतू में divorce करके बैठे. क्या है लेकिन? No reason only. So many people, and even among devotee community also. Little bit difficulty, the first thing they say, divorce करेंगे. First thing. अरे कवर try तो करो यार, इतना जल्दी क्यों उधर कूद रहे हो? Because the consequentialism is so much emphasized in society, it has permeated our thoughts. It has permeated our culture. So ISKCON also would go with that only. So we also advise people also like that, ठीक है, निकल जाओ उसमें से, फटाफट, bind it up. Means whatever. What I'm saying is that, we get carried away by the waves, na? See, we are not, even though we say we are ISKCON and we are not living on another planet, na? We are living on the same planet surrounded by the atmosphere. So बाहर जो चल रहा है उसका हवा हम पे भी आ रहा है ना? We are being swept away by the waves. We are not isolated folks. Correct? Like that. So that is a challenge. Right? Now. Really last.
Consequentialism.
Why will you even time?
It's not to abide by the Shabda Pramana. So many devotees follow that. They are very strict with the regulatory principles and in dealing with others. So that the consequence is that many people become anti-Christian because some devotees are abiding by the Shabda. But in mercy factor, we are always thinking of the consequence that ultimately we have to benefit the person and he has to come up to the stage of Krishna consciousness. So there we have to.
Can you give me a concrete example where, because of my being strict, somebody else had a botheration? I had to become loose to accommodate another person?
Following certain rules and regulations in the house. Like in scriptures, it is mentioned that you should not touch your shita head to the vessel cooking, But in few families, such things are not followed. In few families, such things are strongly followed, even if they are not Krishna conscious.
And they follow those kind of etiquettes.
Yeah, so such etiquettes actually eventually they are not directly related to the spirituality.
They are related to Sattva Guna or whatever.
Yeah, Sattva Guna. But by following some things very harshly, like you become anti-Krishna. They will think that if we become devotees, we will have to follow all this.
The general principle is strict with yourself, lenient with others. So in that context, to accommodate others, a person has to have the maturity where he can, like Prabhupada was in Sally Agarwal's house and meat was there in their fridge. Prabhupada said, think nothing of it. It's okay. Prabhupada was keeping his own item in that. He was very strict with himself, but he was flexible to keep his Prabhupada's item one level below or one level above Sari Agarwal's chicken or whatever. Okay? So that is a great ability. If you want to be successful as a preacher, when you reach out to people, you need to have that ability. Otherwise, you can be a very nice practitioner.
So here Shabda is compromised, no?
Not compromise. Prabhupada never compromised on himself. He just strict with oneself, extremely strict with oneself. See, you are talking about left hand, right hand and all. I am talking about Prabhupada keeping his food along with meat in the same fridge. Oh, इससे इतना तो नहीं था. But Prabhupada was flexible for that, given the time, place, circumstance. Yes or no? There is no compromise. Where Prabhupada compromised on his own spiritual life. He was eating his own thing. But he was very flexible, considerate with that Sari Agarwal, in whose house he was staying, understanding fully well. That's why he was successful as a preacher. Those who were too strict, they could never be successful. In fact, I got a very good opportunity when I was in Mayapur to speak to Ravindra Swarup Prabhu, one of the brilliant personalities in ISKCON, considered the biggest scholar. I asked him, Prabhuji, what do you think was, Prabhupada's main reason why he was successful compared to his god brothers and all that, Why do you think he, I asked him like that, just to see what he, what answer he gave. So he answered very nicely actually. He said that Prabhupada's ability was that he could accommodate all our hippies like us. He was referring to himself like that. But he said, I know all Prabhupada's god brothers very well because I've interacted with all of them very closely. None of them could have come to our level. None of them could have come to our level. They could not have accommodated us only in their level. We were too fallen for them. Our situation was too bad for them. He said that most Prabhupada's god brothers, they could preach only to a very elite class of society in a very posh way. They could not come down to hippies' personal lives and deal with us and accommodate our anarthas and bring us up. This was the reason why Prabhupada was successful. Prabhupada was successful because he was a That doesn't mean Prabhupada compromised on his own personal principles. He was the way he was in India when he was in US. He had his own 3-tier brass cooker, he was cooking in that and eating often. But the ability to adjust. So if you cannot adjust, you will go back to Godhead. But you will not accomplish great things in preaching. That's all. You don't have to compromise. But if you are adjusting, you can be strict with others, but you will achieve many results. You can preach. You will attract people to you. Because people are fallen only, na Baba. कहाँ आपको सत्ययुग जैसे ब्राह्मण मिलने वाले अभी हैं? Who will be, right hand, left hand, and इतने इधर के बाद खाना नहीं चाहिए. इतना तो कोई आएगा ही, खा ही रहेगा. करता है बताएं somebody. उधर there is someone.
Yes,
there is.
How are you?